Hello and welcome to Landy's Crypto Corner for the Friday wrap up here where we're taking a look at Bitcoin. Today is January 24th, 2025, and we're going to start by looking at Bitcoin price action here on the daily, and then we'll go up and take a look at the weekly. And, this week was filled with a lot of, presidential actions, executive orders, if you will. And we've seen the market not really react too much. And I think that that's actually a pretty good thing for those that want to kind of pick their spot, maybe get some entries. And of course, that's not financial advice, but where there is no upside movement and people are getting disappointed, there's areas of the market that are presenting a lot of opportunity. And in this case, for Bitcoin, it's still hanging on the highs. And, it is in higher low structure at the moment, just kind of grinding itself sideways and up here above the upper first standard deviation of the Bollinger Band set here. Now, in looking at structure, we have our lower low close here, slightly lower low. You could almost call it equal lows with the lower low swing here. Of course, we have a higher high. This was a break of this previous higher high over here, where we kind of had a downtrend, a trend break, and then a move right back down to test that downtrending low, and then another break back to the upside here, and then a higher low with that higher low swing coming in at around 99,400 to 500, depending on the chart that you're looking at. In this case, this is Coinbase Spot. And realistically, bulls just need to hold this low from here on out to prevent falling back into this wider range and possibly going in for a test of the low side range. Excuse me. In this case, it needs to get continuation above the high here at around 109, 360 or so, to go and test, of course, 110 to 112. And as I've mentioned in just about every video and on every stage that I guest speak on or where I'm a co-host or host, I am taking it $2,000 at a time above the $108,000 swing up here between areas of interest at around 108 to 110, 110 to 112, and then above 112, I'm looking for more volatile price expansion up to 115, and then up to 120, 125, 130, so on and so forth. And in this case, Bitcoin's still sideways and up since we last talked on Wednesday when we did have a little bit of a down day. But a higher high on a close open basis there coming in at, that was 106, 160. We did get that tested in the Friday candle. Of course, it's still Friday for me, but the Saturday candle is open. I'm not sure what to expect on a weekend like this. There was a lot of executive orders across the board and some specific to crypto. We also had Cynthia Lummis be nominated to chair the Digital Asset Committee for the Finance Committee over there in the Senate, and it's going to be interesting to see kind of how things play out from here. But in terms of price action, things are pretty darn clear. And that would be that in order to get continuation of this trend reversal setup with higher highs and higher lows, we need to see continuation back above that 109, 360. So that much is clear. And for that to really start to present itself, we need to see continued closures above around this 99,400. And I would even say above this 101 area where the close open higher low is coming in. And, we've talked about this quite a bit when looking at the local zones of interest that I've talked about for quite a while, since Bitcoin has been trading up in the $90,000 to $100,000 range and above. And that is to the downside. We've got that $92,000 to that 88,700. We did see, obviously, this area get thoroughly tested as support after being prior resistance. That's also by one of the fib levels that I've talked about before, the 1.168 extension from the bull market high to the bear market low. So that is technically it's technically a bullish retrace or a bearish retrace if you were to pull it the other way. In this case, we're looking at the extensions off of that. This is 16.8% above that $69,000 prior cycle high. To the top side, primary overhead resistance, where we did see a deviation to that higher high. We have that $101,000 to that $104,000 wick high from the 5th of December. And in this case, Bitcoin is using the bottom side of this prior resistance as support on a close open basis with some nice swings below that area, even in and below $100,000. But you see that on Thursday, we saw a spike right down to that 101 region, and then a nice move back to the top side here, right by the 1272 extension around 103,650, and a close above in yesterday's candle above $104,000 over here. So as long as Bitcoin is trading above 101, I'd be looking for for price to essentially head sideways and up, or sideways and possibly up over the weekend. And if we do start to see 101 dropped, be keenly aware of around that 99.45 to $100,000. Bulls need to hold up around that area where the basis band of the Bollinger Bands is coming in just under $100,000. If we did see that area begin to break down, well, it's back into a consolidation structure, quite frankly, and I would be targeting somewhere around the $95,000 to $96,000, kind of the midline of this range where we see some support and resistance flips, and the lower first standard deviation. If that area is dropped, we're looking right back to the bottom side of the range here, around $92,000. You see the lower second standard deviation of the Bollinger Bands down there at 91,150. And under, we would be looking for expansion into the bottom side of this support structure. Any break of that, and we're looking for expansion outside of that support structure to possibly try to hang on to some of the consolidation structure over here on the daily and threaten that $85,000 daily low. The first big, it's not really a big candle, but the first major or significant bearish candle after the big expansion up to this area. So it's fairly easy to kind of pick out what's going on with price action here. You can even see that the upper third standard deviation of the Bollinger Bands is up here, coming in at around $113,000. So again, above 110, I'm roughly looking for like 110 to 112 as the area of interest. Wicks can kind of land anywhere, but on closes above 112, I am looking to about 115. Closes above there, I'm looking to about 120. And in this case, there is some significance to this in terms of this local fib pull here, where we have the 1.168 coming in at that 12K essentially, and then the 1272 coming in about 114. We start looking up above there, and it does not particularly line up with too many of the other numbers that I'm calling out here. But as I said, when volatility kicks off, we start to get some areas of interest that might come into confluence with something like a pull from the prior high at 108,000, almost 400, to that kind of emergency area for the bulls down here at $85,000 on the daily, and we start to get some of the numbers that are lining up with confluent levels on Bollinger Bands. In particular, you're going to start seeing this if Bitcoin heads up, start to line up with that upper third right now coming in confluence with that 112, almost 113 area. Got the 1272 at 115, the 1414 at 120. So not a traditional fib pull, but it is good to try and find some confluence with some of the possible extensions and various ways in which you can pull them. Different systems will have different ways and rules for how you're pulling fibs. I freewheel it because I am a volatility trader, so I'm looking for confluence with the Bollinger Bands in any kind of blue sky breakout scenario. And on the daily, we've got a few other things to check on here. We have the possibility, or we started to see bearish divergence form here. I did not confirm, and that would have been off of this high to this closing high. And we didn't get a closing high put in, so Bitcoin did avoid that bearish divergence drive. And for right now, we're just looking for possible in trend. That meaning this trend reversal possibly gets that continuation or goes back into a consolidation. If it gets continuation to new highs on a close, then we're looking for the possibility of a regular bearish divergence forming within this trend here. And we can now kind of move on and take a look at momentum. This is a regular stochastic momentum indicator. I know I say that all the time, but for the new people here, this is not a Stoch RSI. We just looked at RSI. I don't need a Stoch RSI because a Stoch RSI is just measuring the velocity of RSI. In this case, this is a regular stochastic momentum indicator that is measuring close over close price momentum. So momentum on the daily closes. And in this case, this is a pretty key thing to watch for over this weekend. Any closes, in particular on the Saturday candle, would initiate an initial cross of the K over the D read here on any closes above 102.550. And then that would be a cross up in the context of the bullish control zone here. And yes, you can use bearish and bullish control zones on a regular Stoch. I think they're far more accurate than when being used on something like a Stoch RSI, because you can just reference RSI, as I mentioned. And in this case, I think that, I actually don't use trend lines on price action, but I will on something like this being a momentum indicator. You see a little bit of trend line regression and a fake out to the top side. And then we see a little bit of a triangle forming here, didn't break down in some key areas. And when you combine that with the pivots, you can see that we can actually get a good gauge sometimes for some trend line regression. I think it's a little bit more accurate in my estimation and my experience than trend lines on price action, although you will find a lot of confluence if you are using trend lines on price action. This one doesn't really do much for me. It did on the breakout and the triangle that was being formed there for momentum. I just wanted to kind of bring that up because I did get a question about that fairly recently. Now, if you're looking for a regular stochastic momentum indicator that has pivots, this one is a paid one. This is from KVDB over there. He worked with Crown from, it's now Eric Crown Crypto, used to be Crown's Crypto Cave. He created this indicator. It's got a bunch of bells and whistles, which is why I like this one. It is a paid indicator, but you can get free Stoch momentum indicators. In particular, you can get the BA Pig. Yes, BA Pig needs to be spelled out. Reverse Stoch panel version. This is for free in the indicators tab up here. This also has momentum pivots as well. It just doesn't have other bells and whistles on it. And it's the same criteria for the cross of the K over the D read. Of course, we need to see close over close continuation, right? If it does cross on any closes above 102.550, it would only be an initial cross. We need to see a full cross. So whatever the number updates to in terms of pivot number, we would need to see that number closed above for both the K and the D read to be pointed back up in the context of being right in the bullish control zone and maybe headed back up to the overbought zone. Now, this is just one part, right? When we're looking at momentum, we need to see trend, support and resistance. In this case, we need to see in this uptrend hold. We need to see the this support area, this support resistance flip to support, prior resistance here hold up. We need to see the continuation of RSI, kind of making sure that we're not seeing signs of bearish divergence, in this case regular bearish divergence, along with momentum, and take those four key confluences to kind of form our thesis for a possible upside here. And again, I hesitate to kind of give my opinion over the weekends. It could be wild and it could be quiet. Let's go ahead and get rid of this and take a look at the weekly and define some criteria for what we would like to see if we're bullish and or if we are bearish. I give you both sides of the equation here. as I am direction neutral. I trade the volatility, as I've said many times, and I do hold Bitcoin, and I'm never selling it. So that's one of my core tenets in crypto here. Now, on the weekly, we have higher low structure, has the possibility to get a closing confirmation. And in this case, it would be on any closes above 102,735. So this would confirm this swing low and closing low. It would confirm rather this as a swing low and a closing low, and not just a swing low. In this case, this swing higher low on the weekly is at $89,000. This is the area that you would want to see hold up on the weekly going forward to maintain uptrending structure. And just a reminder for you, Bitcoin was in a downtrend back here. We had the lower low close with the higher low swing. We got the trend break above $65,000 on a close and a swing, and then nice higher low. So we had higher high, higher low. We got expansion up on the weekly to another higher high. Are we looking at the next higher low? Very possibly, if Bitcoin closes essentially anywhere here or higher than the 102,735 wick high this week. And now I will say I want to see Bitcoin closing above 104,450, and that would really do it for me in terms of seeing some really good signals for confirmation back back here on the weekly, or up here on the weekly rather, for this higher low to be set. We can see that the upper second standard deviation is sitting at around 116,686. So basically about 116,700 to $117,000. The upper third is now hanging out at $133,000. And we went from compression to expansion, and we're seeing some sideways and up compression on the bands, kind of forming a range of interest, especially above that basis band, which is down there at $83,000, almost $84,000 now. If Bitcoin closes here higher, I expect the basis band to start coming into the bottom side of the range up here, somewhere in the mid to upper $80,000 region. And we're going to start to see the upper second move towards that $120,000 area of interest. And the upper third will probably get some continuation and or flatten out in the mid 130s. And this is kind of big. We're seeing Bitcoin kind of get this cool down in price action. We see BBWP, which is measuring the volatility of price action in relation to the Bollinger Band set here. And it's cooling down, and it's indicating that, well, Bitcoin is in the strong half of the bands, and in the particularly strong area above the upper first here, that we could very well see, as the bands continue past, Bitcoin continue to tag the top side of them, but just kind of grind it out. I do think that if we saw sharp moves up into the upper bands here, we will see some pretty sharp daily at minimum rejections. And I would hesitate to really start looking for confirmed re-expansion until we see BBWP and the BBWP back over the moving average. And it's got about a 20% difference there right now. So I would kind of, caution those who are incredibly bullish about very deep targets immediately to prepare for a grind. Could I be proven wrong? Absolutely. And the conditions for being proven wrong would be closing the weeklies back above the upper second, getting continuation to that upper third and beyond, more importantly, not just to it. Now, obviously, those are big moves, but this is a very volatile set of Bollinger Bands we have here, because we had a massive expansion off of the low back here in September. And, upon breakout in November around the election, we initiated a move from essentially, $66,800 to, $108,000. That's a massive, massive volatile move. So, we have a wide range of volatility to play in. But in terms of like what I want to see from here. I want to see compression or recompression of the bands. Does it have to get this tight like it did over here? No. But I need to see recompression of the bands and then re-expansion to the upside. I do think it's going to take a week or two for BBWP to cool down. I suspect it will continue to cool down even if Bitcoin's pushing towards that upper second where I would expect it to be at around $120,000. And again, bulls, you don't want to see this structure fail. And you don't want to see $89,000 dropped, especially on a close. If it was a big old, red doji that swung it and maybe hit the basis band or hit around, mid $80,000 region, sure, it's fair game. But it's really about closes from here on out. And you want to see closes above the closing all-time high at 104,450. We will get confirmation of a higher low on a closing basis set on any closes above 102,735. But again, we want to see the extra confirmations. And, we'll watch the daily for those. And I guess we can just kind of take a look at RSI and then we can wrap this up. So I think we're about done here. We've got the topside or extreme zone of RSI here coming in at the bull critical zone. Let's see, it's 132,543, and go figure what's right around there, the upper third standard deviation on the weekly. And I will tell you that we would want to see Bitcoin closing above that 132 to 133 because we would want to see Bitcoin avoid in trend bearish divergence. And if it forms, that doesn't mean, by the way, if it does form, now we're just speculating. If it does form, it's one drive from this local in trend structure. I'm not that concerned about it. Typically, that's corrective, and we'd be looking for more drives of bearish divergence from the uptrending structure that we're currently building. Yes, there would be hidden bearish divergence from other areas of price action and RSI, but not as important as the in-trend bearish divergence. All right, let's take a look at the weekly. 101,700 would bullishly reset the Stoke momentum indicator here on the weekly. So that would look really good for the bulls. That would come on closes this Sunday above 101,700. Of course, we would need to see follow through next week as well. So final week in the month, we would want to see it follow through and get a close above whatever the pivot updates to. Likely the pivot number will dive if we do see a cross back up. So 101,700 is the number to beat this weekend. We'll likely see that number dive to somewhere around maybe 90s or even under where the low would possibly be set if that does occur over the weekend. And the nice thing about some of these paid indicators is, unlike the free ones, they can give you a little projection. We would see that the K read would slightly cross over the D read, but we would need to see confirmation next week. So this weekend's pretty important for price structure and momentum and all of the various confluences that we've been talking about for a while. We're starting to see the signs that, things might start to come to fruition back to the upside for some of the momentum indicators indicating further upside. Obviously, Bitcoin has made a new all-time high. It's been closing new all-time highs, and I would expect that to continue should we see all of these signals kind of fire off in concert with each other. And I think that's going to do it now. You have a wonderful morning, afternoon, and evening, no matter where you are in the world. Please trade safe. And of course, as always, stay safe. You have a great weekend, and I'll catch up with you on Sunday or Monday. I might try to get in there to some of the more popular shows on Sunday where I do often guest speak or just hang out with some friends. Although there's a big playoff game where my Buffalo Bills are going to be playing the Chiefs, so I'm more than likely going to be locked in on that. But we'll see how the game's going. That might determine if I'm on stage somewhere. Other than that, I will see you here for the next video, which will be the Macro Monday video on Monday after the Monday daily candle close. Take care. Landy out.